Makes you wonder.
Is the show Justified with Timothy Oliphant really good? And that's what we're talking about today.
We don't really know.
Welcome back to This Podcast Is Not For You. We're back.
We're back,
baby.
We've been waiting 3 weeks to say that 7 times in this episode, so follow along at home.
Count 'em
on
up.
the We're Back counter. That one doesn't count, obviously. The one previously does, for sure. So, as I said before, we are back!
We're back.
And
A lot has changed.
we have here
Right here.
a
YouTube exclusive content.
cold foam whiskey.
We've got a cup full of YouTube exclusive
Cold
content.
brew foam whiskey.
It's like 17 cheers. There's
With
3 glasses.
my wedding blend.
Jake got married.
Yes,
Well,
you
that's
heard
why.
that.
Yeah. Big changes, guys.
Yes.
Peyton has a cowboy hat, and Jake got married.
And I have
Howdy.
I have a wife. So
I'm the same.
and
Wes- Wes
we,
is a wife.
we had our wedding favors were coffee, and we have a
Huge
bag
hit.
of that here, and it is
Oh, we should have got a bag.
we made a cold foam with it, and we're pairing it with Monday 0 alcohol whiskey and spirits whiskey.
Some things
Available-
don't change.
Some things don't change. Am I right? Available at
Man.
drinkmonday.co. Use our code NOTFORYOU10 for 10% off of your entire purchase. And we're going to try this. Here we go. It's not the same,
It is not the same.
but it's good.
I think what you did differently is the last time you made the cold foam separate from the coffee. I saw you mix the coffee with the cold foam this time.
Could be.
I think last time you just put the coffee and whiskey together, made the cold foam, and put it on
Put it
top.
on top. Yeah, that's what it was.
It tastes very similar, but it's a little bit different.
This is all whiskey,
I was going to say, I
and
think.
then it
Yeah.
mellows out, which is
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. I
Yeah,
like it.
the
It's
first
not the
drink
same
was-
for sure.
A lot of whiskey, and then
The other
second
one was, I
there's
think, a
more
little
coffee.
bit sweeter, too.
Yeah, and it's more mouthfeel in the other one. The other one was very much like you see it. This looks like a drink, right?
Yeah.
You could order this at a coffee shop. But the other one,
It was more layered.
that was
Is what you're saying?
a mixed, more of a mixed drink, yeah. Because it was not actually mixed.
Yeah.
More what you see at a bar.
Yes.
Anyway, we're back.
We're back, guys.
Today we are not talking about mixed drinks, weddings, or staying the same. Nor are we talking about cowboy hats. We're talking about Top Gun Maverick.
So in a way, we're talking about cowboy hats.
Yes. What?
Someone wears a cowboy hat in Top Gun, I'm pretty sure.
We have all seen it.
Yes.
Okay. Really quickly, because it's in all caps on the outline, really quickly. Did we like it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also liked it.
Cool. Thanks for listening.
That was
7
great,
seconds.
guys.
That was one of our quickest segments.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did. I liked it, and I was immediately. I walked out impressed.
Uh-huh.
That would be probably the easiest way to say that. So let's go real quick. Top Gun history. Have you guys seen the original?
Yes.
Cool. I haven't.
I feel like this works even if you haven't.
And
Clearly.
I
It's
pretty
can tell
different.
you. Yeah.
It's pretty different to me.
So what did you? How do you feel like that affected your view of Top Gun Maverick? Just with the how early. How, did you see the original, or did you watch it recently? Because you had 2 years to watch it, because this was supposed to come out a long time ago.
It was.
and I failed, but
I saw it a long time ago. I barely remember it. I went to try and rewatch it. Got about 10 minutes in. I was like, I'm good.
really,
Yeah. It's dated. And
even for the 80s.
even for the 80s, it's pretty dated. And the characters are more insufferable.
Yeah.
Like,
It's more like,
Maverick is really kind of a douche they're all kind of just pompous jerks in the original one, I feel like. In this one, they're much more likable and relatable. So, yeah, I was honestly going into this without even like really thinking about the original one.
okay,
Because I knew they were doing all of the plane stuff for real, which we'll talk about. That was the big appeal.
no, it's not
No,
in there.
we're not gonna talk
it's
about
actually
it.
not in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're looking for plain stuff, this podcast is not for
And
you.
don't watch, and this movie's not for you. There's hardly any plain stuff.
So going into it, that was the big draw. Is like they're doing a lot of these stunts
Yeah.
for real because Tom Cruise is the way Tom Cruise is.
We will talk about that.
Yeah.
betcha.
So that was the big draw, more so than it being a sequel to a movie I didn't care about from 30 years ago. Like, I really don't care about Top Gun at all, but I think the recent Mission Impossible movies I've enjoyed a lot because of the level
Yeah.
of practical effects in them
Yeah.
and real stunts. So this kind of transfers over. It's very similar. So that was really my appeal. I would say the original didn't have much impact on whether or not I enjoyed this.
I agree 100%. I think the original is more like an episode of Beverly Hills 90210. It is like much more like drama heavy, like, but the drama type of like
It's where you don't care about
that
it.
you don't care, that you
The
don't
high
care.
stakes stuff.
Yeah,
sounds-
it's like it's cranked up of like we are awesome,
Yeah.
and it's the whole movie. There's not the depth that this movie has.
We of like America, or just like
Exactly.
Is that
no,
really-
no, no?
oh, okay.
I just mean
I meant literally those characters.
We as in those characters,
Okay,
like
okay.
they think they're awesome, like all of them, not just Maverick.
And the movie kind of thinks they're awesome
Yes,
too.
that's kind of what I mean more than anything. And this feels much more like grounded. But anyway,
Yeah.
I agree. I didn't even think about the original that much at all when I was. I mean, there's occasional like I wish they would have done a couple things less, like homages and stuff. But besides that, I didn't really. Those are the only moments where
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh yeah, we can be good." Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even mind the flashbacks. Personally,
There are
having
very,
never
very few of them.
yeah,
I think there's only two,
and having
right?
never seen it.
Yeah.
But you know they changed the frame rate, and you know it was like it almost felt like Shudder.
Yeah. They slowed everything
You know,
down.
and so I didn't really mind it in that was significant to me, and I'm mentioning it because I feel like it going in, if you would have said they're going to do flashback sequences, I would have been like, why? That sounds like the worst idea. But it didn't bother me. So
They're
yeah,
definitely in there for people that haven't seen the first one.
I appreciated it.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I didn't even know. Spoilers for the original Top Gun. I didn't even know Goose died.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay.
That's the only thing I remember about it.
Oh. So what happens in the
It's
first
the
10
only
minutes?
thing you remember about it.
It's the only like plot point. I don't remember what the plot is.
Did you know that Tom Cruise was in the original?
Yes.
Okay.
So I knew those two things.
Goose died and Tom Cruise was in it. Cool. But yeah, I didn't, as someone who didn't see it, I didn't
There was
mind
a
the flashbacks. and-
Fast flashbacks.
yeah. So I didn't
Very brief.
feel like they were like holding my hand,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm the one that needed hand holding. You know?
Which
you guys
is
know
it.
what I mean?
Well, it's a
I
routine
do.
for you.
Exclusive
It's
content?
a routine for you in the theater. You need someone to hold your
True,
hand. most
He
of the
gets
time.
really scared.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Especially
When the
during
lights
Top
go- when the
Gun.
lights go down?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really awkward, and there was just this family next to him, and there's a kid.
Yeah.
And he was by himself. So
And
it's
I was
like,
holding the kid's hand.
right.
And the parents were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like,
I'm
"You
scared.
don't understand."
I'm scared.
Anyway, so let's talk about that. Yeah, Wes mentioned it a little bit. A sequel to a movie that I didn't really care about 30 years later. That is so interesting because I agree. Talk about the risk of making a sequel 36 years later to a movie that didn't need a sequel in the first place. Not only like the financial risk, obviously, but if you're Tom Cruise and your Mission Impossible movies have been doing really well,
Yeah.
you're starting to get this notoriety of, man, he's like the last of a dying breed, like the
Right.
last of these like actual action heroes, you know, and we'll definitely talk about that later. But so not only the financial risk, but you know, putting your reputation on the line, putting your, you know, your credentials on the line if you're Miles Teller, because you certainly, I mean, now maybe he might be a movie star, but if you ask anyone before Top Gun came out, my dad didn't know who he was, you know, and it's like,
People that are like more into movies and keeping up with
Would
movie
have seen him a
trends.
few times.
Yeah.
yeah, but they
He's not a household name, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
And so, just talk about, what do you guys think about the risk involved in making a movie that most people, at least that I've talked to, are like, why are they even making this?
Yeah.
For it to be a success. You know, I mean, they're talking about crossing the $1 billion threshold.
Right.
Which, what's the last non-superhero movie that crossed the $1 billion threshold, you know? So...
Maybe Avatar?
And I didn't even think about asking that question, or else I would have looked it up.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Sure.
But does that make any sense? Am I
yeah.
articulating, like,
Yeah, no,
why the frick would you do this?
It immediately made me think of a couple other attempts at it.
Well, that's my thing. I don't think it would have... The path's been tread.
It's not new.
Yeah.
It's not a new idea to, like, it's a legacy sequel is what they're calling them. Is where they haven't had a movie in a long time.
Teaser legacy sequel.
But this is way different because it was successful. Like
Yeah.
Ghostbusters Afterlife. That's an example. But it wasn't successful.
And
It's
the other one I think is successful, but not financially, was Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
The problem with that one was the original movie had a very small following to begin with. It wasn't a financial success to
Right.
start with. The original Top Gun was a financial success,
Yeah.
and people liked it a lot.
Right.
And people liked Blade Runner, but it was a smaller group. And they made a sequel that was really good, and I think fans of the original movie really liked it, but it's not like a mass appeal kind of movie like a Top Gun would be. So it financially didn't do well, but was critically like really, really well received and did well. So I think that's one type of success. They just misjudged their audience. This one, I feel like the jump to making a sequel to Top Gun is easier to make than some other sequels. You still have Tom Cruise, and you have the hook of doing the plane stuff for real, because technologically you can put cameras now in tighter places like a cockpit.
Yeah.
And it'd be really good quality.
And have it be, it was an IMAX camera that they got the sensor for into a cockpit. Like, you couldn't have even done that 10 years ago.
And that's sort of, you know, because at this point I'm asking why. I mean, besides having like one of the best logos of like the 80s, as far as I know, Top Gun's pretty forgettable.
I think the why is
yeah, it's
because
gotta-
Tom Cruise cares about it.
Exactly.
It doesn't have good... Like, the original doesn't even have good ratings on Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic.
And so I watched an interview, and Tom Cruise was like, one of the reasons we waited is I wanted technology to catch up to where we could do what we're doing now. And, you know, pre-press tours, whatever. I'm sure Matthew McConaughey says the same thing about his movies. I'm sure, you know, but it's like, you see it and you're like, oh, I get he was actually being serious.
Yes.
Like, so, you know, it's like, man, you're waiting for technology to catch up, and then all of a sudden, you're wondering, I mean, you know, as a member of a band who hasn't done anything in 3 years, we're wondering, do people still care about us at all? You know, and it's like 36 years, and sure, I guess you're right. Tom Cruise is still putting butts in seats, which I didn't know to this extent.
I mean, I feel like they were also kind of looking at this as like, it completely functions on its own.
I
Like,
think it does. Yeah, because I haven't seen the original.
I think they were almost looking at it as, yes, it's a sequel, but we're only going to take certain elements from the original, and we're essentially just making a new fighter pilot movie.
Yeah.
And it just has the name of Top Gun and a couple elements that continue over. But
I think the other reason to why is, like, there's nothing like it. Like, there's nothing really being made that is similar to it. Meaning, like, when's the last... I mean, it's so specific. It's like Jurassic Park. Jurassic World's going to do great. It will. Like, you can say whatever you want about the movie. It's going to do great because it's the only thing that does dinosaurs in the movie. And it's just... This is that same thing.
right.
That's why I tweeted. We saw Top Gun when we got back from our honeymoon when Jurassic World was coming out. And 4 lines back to the stairs at Regal. And I took a picture.
Oh, really?
And I tweeted, and I was like, the power of Tom Cruise and dinosaurs. Because it's right. It's like, that's what people want to see.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, and that's...
The other pull is, like, it's good for all ages, too. Like, you could take your kids to Top Gun.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big pull for people.
That's true.
I mean, that at least multiplies the audience pie by a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I also feel like I think people are reacting so positively to it because there's more than just plane sequences in it. Like the storyline, while nothing radical or like weird or different, is really solid
It's very
and well
solid.
thought out. And they made good choices just in terms of the story that they were telling. It wasn't overly complicated. It was very simple and character driven.
Yeah.
And people are reacting to it because most of the time you go to Jurassic World Dominion, the character motivation, they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they're just like, okay, here's the big scene. Here's another big scene. Let's connect them. How do we get this character from this point to this point? Blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. That's what a lot of big movies are.
Yeah.
And people can tell. Like, people are liking Top Gun Maverick way more than they're liking what... I mean, I don't know the reactions to Jurassic World, but I'm guessing they're like, yeah, it was a Jurassic World movie, and it was what it was.
Did people like Doctor Strange? Didn't it not do that great? Or no?
The
I don't-
reviews are okay.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
It's a lot of like middling stuff, but people are really positive about Top Gun Maverick because I think there's quality in it that people are recognizing.
Yeah.
In between the big action sequences, you know?
So the next question is this the blueprint for how to make an interesting / honorable sequel well down the line after your original? And, you know, I didn't think of 2049 when I asked the question because I still, like you said, this one is a little different because it's successful on both.
It's a mass appeal kind of movie as opposed to Blade
Yeah, and
Runner.
it was trying to be.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Blade Runner, Denis was like, I'm going to make exactly what I want to make. You know, it's
Yes.
like, okay. So, yeah, it's just, is this how to do it? And if so, what do you feel like are the big, if you're making a blueprint based off Top Gun and you want to make a sequel to... Cool Runnings.
Real hard to come up with one that
It's the
has
first one that...
That's good. I like it.
Big movie from like the 70s or 80s. I mean,
so
they already did
definitely
Vacation.
Not, so
they
it's
did.
definitely not Cool Runnings.
It could be Cool Runnings.
Is Cool Runnings that popular? That
know what it
popular? I know what it is, but
He knows what it is.
I don't know if
it was
it's
a Disney movie, right? About Jamaican
DreamWorks, maybe.
Bobsledders?
So if you're going to make a sequel for Cool Runnings...
I like it. We'll stick with it.
What are the 3 things you would take from the Top Gun and do it in the Cool Runnings setting?
You've got the Cool Runnings guys. You need those.
You need at least a couple.
You got
right?
you got John Candy back.
Okay. Okay, so you need some star appeal. But yeah,
Even though
is
he's
it
dead.
Is it the fact that because and we'll talk about it. We're about to talk about the movie. I know you're listening and you're like, when the frick are these guys going to talk about the movie? We're going to talk about the movie, but right now
We're not going to talk
we're
about
not going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about the blueprint that the movie Top Gun Maverick laid out for us because we're back. So here's the thing.
reason.
Number 4.
Here's the thing.
We're back.
Is it the characters recognizing a character flaw that they had in the first one? Coming to terms with the decision that they made that affected more than just themselves in the first one that you didn't see? Is it a character coming back and saying, I might be the last of a dying breed, but I'm going to do my best to prolong what I can for these guys out here? You know, because...
I think the blueprint is care about the characters that you're writing about. Don't worry about if people are going to like it or if the fans are going to like it or not. Because that's what every one of these Star Wars, Star Trek, like all of the big
stars,
all of the big Ghostbusters is one. All of those are overly concerned with what the fans want. With Ghostbusters, I'm specifically talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife,
right?
Not whatever the first one was. They care about they care about what the fans want to a point where they're not even making a movie that's like coherent. They're just doing like, okay, we want Emperor Palpatine back. Mm-hmm. Like people like Palpatine. Like that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And with this, they were like, we're making a movie about fighter pilots and these characters. How do we tell an interesting story with these characters and the concept of fighter pilots? And that's what they did. They weren't like, how do we jam in references to minor characters that nobody cares about, like all of this crap. And
yeah, I mean, think about how many of those. Never mind. We're still an anti-spoiler right now.
We're talking about the blueprint.
That's true.
We're not
but they
talking
could have
about
brought back
I'll just say
every
this.
actor from. They could have brought back every actor from the original Top Gun, and they didn't. They brought back 2, and that's it. And
I'll go even one step and make it even simpler. You just have to make a good movie. And that's it. Because here's what I don't understand about executives, and they just don't seem to understand, even though the numbers, if you pointed it at them and said, look at this, it's undeniable. If you make a good film, even if it doesn't do great at the box office, you've got a very good chance that it can be a franchise. It can live for 40, 50 years. I mean, how much money do you think The Lord of the Rings has made?
$750 at least.
$750.
I mean, I did well at the box office too. I just mean, when you make something like you take the risk of making a good movie on its own, like you're talking about, you've got a really good chance that people will respond to it, even if they don't do it the first weekend.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you look at something like The Godfather. Like, The Godfather spawned 2 movies that are hailed as some of the best of all time. People still love those movies, and they're made 40 years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago almost.
Right.
And they're still making money. Like, because people buy them on Blu-ray, they watch them on whatever, you know, they're still a draw for Paramount or whoever. So you really invest in the quality of the thing that you do, people will care about it for a long time.
Yeah. But more specifically, Jake, I think to answer your question, like, they have a language, they had a visual language for the movie, I think, that they really tapped into and did really well.
I agree. I think it's edited almost like an 80s movie at points.
Right. You've got the soundtrack that's also in that realm. I mean, all the cars and stuff. And then it knows it's an action movie too. So it's not like going to like shirk their responsibility for action, but it has depth. It just hits humor. It just is really... Wes said the word that I just kept thinking after I watched it.
What is it?
Solid.
Palpable.
What'd you say? Care? Care. Solid.
Wes said care.
Wes said care about it. No, I just kept thinking it was very solid. Like, there's nothing wrong with the movie at all, really.
No.
And it was just entertaining. Just entertain people.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, there were a lot of times where I'm like...
Yeah, right.
But, so let's just get in. Let's talk about the movie. I know you guys are listening, and you're like, man, 6 minutes ago, he was like, we're about to start talking about the movie. Well, right now, we're back, and we're talking about the movie. So, let's talk about the movie.
Okay.
What do you want to talk about with the movie?
Top Gun Maverick.
It opens with... Just kidding.
It's just Top Gun.
Get this.
You don't need
It opens the exact same way as Top Gun.
How
do you know?
If I had
I guess
to
that's
put,
true. My dad leaned over and said, "This is exactly how the first one started."
I believe that.
If I had one flaw in the movie, it's like, why that?
It's into it.
It's like a shot-for-shot remake of the opening of the original movie. Even with the song too. The song kicks in at like the same point. Yeah. It's the same shots, and I was just like, why?
I mean, it's cool. It's not cool. I think with it being the exact same thing, it's not. But if you hadn't seen the original, I mean, did you think it was cool? Yeah. See.
It was just an odd choice for a movie that wasn't dwelling on the nostalgia of.
Were you like, oh boy, here we go?
Yeah, at first I was like, they're just doing a shot-for-shot remake of the
whole movie.
And there were a couple other moments where it's like, it's the exact same thing from the first one. But because the first one kind of sucks, it's not as bad. They're just doing it right this time.
It's like Tron. It's like Tron.
Yes, that is another good example.
It's a good example.
Same director.
It's a good example.
Yeah.
Which is...
Wow, okay.
Huh.
Krasinski.
Can we get some...
Kaczynski.
Can we get some online buzz for that? You think?
that it's the same guy.
We are the first to notice.
Nobody's put it together that it's the same director as
you
Tron
know?
Legacy.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought, in my
It's a bold choice.
yes, and in my opinion, it was just setting the stage. Because then it fades to black and the movie starts.
Yeah, it's just credits.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but
I love beginning of movie credits. They're so good.
yeah,
I love them.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
we'll do
It's
a
refreshing.
new episode about favorite credit sequences
Oh.
right now.
Put it on the list.
So-
We're brainstorming ideas.
Put it on the
after
list.
this,
It'll
so-
have the least amount of listens for
Yeah.
sure.
This guy's talking about the credit sequences of movies. You gotta listen to this podcast. This episode's crazy.
It's even better with the video podcast
Yeah.
because they're showing the credits
Yes.
the whole time.
Get this, they didn't even talk about Star Wars. Okay, so yeah, when we walked out of the theater, you know, all I was thinking was like that. At the very least, that was impressive.
Didn't realize it was trademarked.
Yeah, it is capitalized and trademarked. I actually had to look up TM and copy it from the Google results
sorry.
and post it in here.
We can cut that.
Here's the thing. That's what I said. At the very least, it's impressive. Because, I mean, almost everything you see, they freaking did.
Yeah.
Which is just like, I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. Also, I can't remember if this was on the previous episode. I was misled by the marketing of this film. I watched
You thought it was coming out last year.
yeah.
We all did.
I watched a behind the scenes video
He's
of,
like,
of
behind
them
the
of them
scenes.
talking about how they did the flight stuff for real. And the video was very it made it sound like the actors were the ones flying the planes. And it's not the case.
No.
But
Which he came at me multiple times.
because
And
this video
I did
really,
not buy it for 1 second.
this video really made it seem like the actors were the ones flying the planes. And I think it was intentional to be like vague about it to the point where
Yeah, they got you.
Yeah, they did.
They got you.
But even still, the actors are actually in these planes.
Yeah.
Sure, you can definitely tell that.
And
They're pulling G's.
Yeah.
There's a shot where Miles Teller like comes up out of his seat
Yeah.
as he's flipping over the ravine the first time, and that was real. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to strap," and then but the way that they shot it is they shot all the sequences, come back to the base, and look at the shots.
Yeah.
So they didn't know while they were doing it what was good or
and
not.
then they had to go back up and do another
yeah.
take.
And Kwasinski was like, "I love that shot," so they kept it, which is
Yeah.
cool.
yeah.
'Cause Miles Teller was literally like, "Oh shit," you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing or like a mark against the movie that the actors weren't flying the planes.
No,
I
I
think
don't-
it's unrealistic to expect
Absolutely.
that they would. It's like being an astronaut. You realize that, right?
To me, yes. I thought
you have to train your whole life and you still probably can't make the
to
cut.
me, I was fascinated by it because I was like, oh, Tom Cruise has gone insane. Like,
well, he's the only one that's
he's-
actually a pilot.
true.
So he does have his, but not.
Right.
I mean, not.
Which is part of why I was like, oh, did he make all these people become pilots? Like,
Yeah.
It's not the most insane thing to like. Maybe he did because he's kind of out there, but no, it's not a knock on the movie. It's a little bit knock on their marketing team to like try and convince people that the actors were flying it a little bit. But
The SAG would not be behind this movie
No.
if that's what happened.
But all of the plane stuff is just like insane. It's like Dunkirk times
Yeah.
50.
Right.
Because all of those, they didn't do a lot of that stuff in Dunkirk for real, but it felt very real. They did some flight sequences and stuff for real, but this is just like,
Yeah, the
Cranked
shot.
up.
Spoiler. Sorry, spoiler section. The shot where he's taking off from the naval carrier, and it like the plane like because
Yeah.
he takes off. I mean, that was where I was like, this screen is too small. I was like, I have to see it as freaking big as I can because it feels crazy.
yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I think the best shot in the movie is still the beginning sequence where he flies over
where
Ed
they do
Harris.
exactly what they did from the first one.
No. No, it's the first section of.
Where the plane flies over Ed Harris.
It's
and,
real.
like,
I know.
and the roof comes off,
Yes.
it's real.
I
It was
know.
an accident.
That's why I'm saying it's the
Isn't
best
that
shot in the
insane?
movie. Yeah. It's crazy.
Because when we saw that in the trailer 7 years ago, we were
Yeah.
like, that's so cheesy. Because it's like, oh, the roof came off. Whoa, we're going so fast. Freaking real.
Yeah. I'm curious as to how much that
wish that
opening
shot wasn't in the trailer.
sequence, that opening sequence of him flying
Where they're
that other
doing the
plane.
exact same thing.
I wonder how much of that, like, supersonic plane is filmed for real, and it looks like
Yeah.
the most movie
Yeah.
sequence.
Because you have the light. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't quite look as real as the other stuff.
And you've got like super far back zoom shots of him like turning the plane into
Yeah. But I think all of that stuff is amazing. The only real plot point in the movie where I was like, I could have done without this was the whole Jennifer Connelly
romance. Yes.
bit. It's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't make me feel anything more for Maverick.
Yeah.
It didn't impact his story at all and the
Agreed.
decisions he made. He just, like, had this thing with her.
Good for him, I guess. But
Sure.
You could make the argument that the conversation on the stoop makes him want to do the
You could
show him that it.
Go
it-
sh-
yeah.
yeah.
You could
whatever.
do that in another way.
He probably would have
without-
done it anyway, but I'm just saying you could
Yeah.
make that argument.
You could do that in another way without that whole
For sure.
subplot. Like, apparently, it's a minor character that's referenced in the
Yeah.
first movie, which, while I was watching it, I was like, I leaned over to Alex because I saw it with him. I was like, I feel like there's another movie in between these two that we missed where he was with Jennifer Connelly because.
But that's what I love about this. Is it like it acted like they've been living for 36
Yeah,
years.
it
That's what
doesn't-
that was probably my favorite thing about anything that wasn't a flight sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Was like they're okay with you not understanding. I mean, I freaking love that. It was
Yeah.
just like, especially someone that hadn't seen the original. I was like, I'm not supposed to get any
the
of this.
relationship
So-
between him and Miles Teller is really well done in that it doesn't over-explain everything.
Yeah.
Um,
His mom died. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't see that, and
No.
that's okay. And like,
and the thing they avoided was
Miles Teller's character's mom died. Miles Teller's mom could have died, but that's not what I was talking about.
they avoided my dad died on your watch and I'm mad at you for it.
Yeah.
I thought that was going
Yes.
to be the thing, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But he's not mad at him for that. He's mad at him because whenever Miles Teller's character wanted to go into
I pulled this
Top
paper
Gun,
at the Naval
he
Academy.
basically was like,
Yeah.
no, like pulled him out of it
And
and delayed him.
It was
a
really
long time.
because
he made a promise to his
Rooster's mom,
yes.
but he didn't even tell Rooster that. And
Yeah.
it's like, and that's all really interesting stuff. And then, how you have Maverick, like, actually feeling the weight of that decision and why Goose died, because when he's asking them, he's like, can you do this? Well, why were you going too fast? What's the slick-haired guy's name?
Val Kilmer?
No. The young one, Hangman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, what's his
George
actual
Powell
name?
or whatever.
I have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Gregory Powell or something.
Something Powell.
Why were you going so fast? Well, they couldn't keep up. Do you have a reason do you have an excuse that will make their families feel better at their funeral?
Yeah.
And that sequence, because it's like, oh, that's the things that these people that we're the best in the world at what we do.
And
Yeah,
that's the
never
thing I
think
feel
about
like the
ever.
original
Yeah.
one is missing. The
Exactly.
original
Yeah,
one
yeah,
is
heart.
missing
Any kind of heart.
the realism of it.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, you're cocky, but this is life and death.
And so that's what I loved about. I thought that was great, because it's like, oh yeah, this is me 36 years later, and this has changed me as a character. So you're not seeing the same Maverick from the first one.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is really cool, because most people would just be like, let's give them what they love.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, if he hadn't matured at all and was just the same guy,
Yeah, that would have been really lame.
it would have been a pretty rough watch. Pretty, like, cringy.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
But, yeah, outside of the Jennifer Connelly storyline, I felt like nothing really stood out to me as, like, a problem. I initially thought, are they going to kill Maverick at the end of this?
I thought that for a second too.
And then when I really started to think about it afterwards, I was like, it's a good thing they didn't, because this is not the kind of movie to pull that with.
Right.
You know, something like a Blade Runner movie or
Dark
something
Knight.
darker, you can do killing a character in a satisfying way that
Bond.
or you Bond
Spoilers.
or Force Awakens killing off Han Solo, like
Spoilers.
yes, spoilers for Force Awakens. Nobody's seen that by now. You can do it in a way that's satisfying because you're building into new characters. This movie is too like crowd pleaser and like kind of positive to kill off a character and be kind of a downer ending, you know. So I'm glad in retrospect they did.
Which they did in the perfect tone of the movie, because then he's like, he saves him.
Yeah.
And he runs over to him, pushes him over, and is like, "What the frick are you doing here?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, this is funny. That's the kind of movie that it is." You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And then spoilers, he steals an F-14, and that's when it felt like a Mission Impossible movie, was that. And someone else was saying it felt like GoldenEye or something, like a just burned out airfield, and he's trying to take off this plane. But I thought for a while it was going to end not having a dogfight, but then they did a very good job of paying off what you want to see from a movie like this, but not in a way that's like pandering. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
you want to see a dogfight in a movie about fighter pilots where there's people shooting at each other in planes. And I thought they were going to get all the way through this movie and not do that. Like, the thing was the mission where they have to
Right.
do a Star Wars trench run and blow up the Death Star.
Spoilers.
And
Speaking of which, that sequence is insane.
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Where they're trying to get away from the SAM missiles and like, I mean, it's just constant radio chatter
Yeah.
the entire time.
I'm out of flares. Why?
Yeah, yeah.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. I got you. He's behind you. He's behind you. No.
And that pullback shot of like all of them, just
And
like
it just like flares
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. So crazy.
But doing the fake out of killing him, they got to get out of this situation where they're just on the ground in enemy territory and they're going to steal an F4. Like, it's a ridiculous idea, but it manages to pull it off because I think the movie's built up so much goodwill to that point. It's like, if the movie was kind of crap up until then, him stealing a like 30-year-old plane and fighting off two like top of the line fighter jets would be
Or you can just be like,
absolutely
when is this
absurd.
thing going to get over?
Yeah.
You know, if you weren't having fun, like...
the
and you
fake out
weren't-
ending would be like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But
So,
I think it
yeah.
built up so much goodwill at that point, like it really worked, and then paid it off with a really great final sequence. You know, what do you have to say about it?
About
You
what?
haven't said a dang word.
Specifically the reaction to the movie? I feel like I've said quite a bit.
Just have an opinion, man.
Dude, just have an original thought.
I don't have them. Sorry, I had to do it once. I'm so sorry. What are we talking about? I was just digging into what he
I
was
mean, we
doing.
can show you the waveforms, man. You haven't said a word. Look. See?
Yeah, you're right. I'll record all my stuff in post.
That's all I was thinking is like, they paid it off what you wanted to see really well, and then everything in between the action sequences was actually thought about, which I feel like so many movies don't. They don't care about those parts because they're like, get on to the next thing.
Right.
Put a little bit of fan service in here, get on to the next thing.
Yeah, there was just some depth in it. Like, there's scenes where, there's a scene where Tom Cruise cries in it. It's like, I don't think that people saw that coming. I don't think that
He hasn't cried in a movie in a long time.
no.
Probably since Magnolia, where he cries a lot.
He does cry a lot in Magnolia
Oh, we
and
all
yells
know.
a lot.
Yeah. Show me the money.
Yeah, see?
That is
That is in that movie. No, it's not. I just thought the depth of it was what really set it apart. All the action stuff's great. All the character. I think the only thing that they could have done less is like, say "Talk to me, Goose" once at the end or something instead of 4 times.
Yeah.
Because he says it a few times, but then
Rooster says
Rooster
it.
says
Yeah.
it too, right?
Talk to me, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just have "Talk to me, Goose" once.
I could have done without the double football scene
yeah.
because that
I
was
would
just
just-
like,
He's building a team.
Yeah.
Explain
Dude, it was
to me.
perfect. I was
Explain
like-
to me double
Right
football.
when I saw the 2 footballs, I was like, I know this from the trailer. I'm gonna go pee, and it was perfect. I missed it.
Really? You missed the team building.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Is it though?
They're playing offense and defense at the same time.
I heard that.
So you got it. You got the good part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Which
And then the guy with the headphones, his buddy. You know what I'm talking about? The guy that's he's like, whatever. You know what I'm talking about? The guy with the headphones. he's in the control room when he's doing the 9Gs thing at the very beginning.
Yeah.
What is his name?
I don't know, but he did a great job.
Yeah.
He catches the football. They throw it to him.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he goes, oh.
That's cool.
Man, it was good stuff.
That's cool. Like we were talking about, depth with the movie. Yeah, I thought it was really entertained the whole time. Like it was just really fun.
Yeah, let's talk about Tom Cruise now.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about his middle tooth. If you
It
want
says
to hear,
Avi talk about his middle tooth.
if you want to hear about Tom Cruise's middle tooth, listen to the best television pilots episode. Again, the pilots episode where we
These
talk
are
about
kind of spirit brother.
They are. So
Spirit
Tom
sibling
Cruise
episodes.
has one tooth in the middle of his face. So if you Google Tom Cruise middle tooth, just check it out. You'll know what we mean. This is. I think this is right. This is it. This is what I'm talking about. We're back. So this is
Jake is
Hold on,
broken.
dude.
the Tom Cruise thing. Is he just makes fun movies?
Yep. I think there's also something else involved, though. I was saying this
Scientology.
Money.
Scientology.
No, and that's what I think. I think that's what's so great is whatever
How Scientologist he is.
Whatever you think about Tom Cruise or however you feel about how he feels or thinks or believes, it's never in his movies.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think he just is so full force into making
Movies that everybody can enjoy.
cinema.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like action movie cinema, because it's not even pretentious when you say that. It's like he's into cinema. It's like most people hear that and they're like, oh, Green Knight, oh, The Lighthouse, the
Sure.
cinema. It's like, no, Tom Cruise
Just
just
popcorn movies.
freaking loves making movies.
I feel like you see it in both this and the more recent Mission Impossible movies.
I know what you're gonna say. Can I guess?
Yeah.
He thinks he's awesome.
I was
and that
gonna
comes out real.
I was going to
real
get to
good.
that, but
yeah.
I don't think he really does care about making movies that everybody can enjoy. Everybody. Like, that's why there's no, like, hyper liberal stuff in it. There's no hyper conservative
There's
stuff
not even
in
a
it.
bad guy in the movie.
No, the country is completely
Yeah.
neutral
Yeah.
and not talked about, which I think works. It was
It's
also,
Iran.
Is it?
The location.
It's very not talked about very much.
Yeah.
I think it maybe was said
It's
once.
mentioned once. Yeah.
Which I think it will help it be timeless,
Yeah.
too. But
But there's not hyper politicized stuff in any of those movies. Like, it'd be super easy for. I don't think he cares about people coming after him as like, oh, you don't have enough diversity or
Yeah.
like whatever. Like,
Yeah.
he's just like, yeah, I'm putting whoever's good in the movie and then making a good movie. And I think that's very clear. And it shows
Yeah.
that people respond to them because they're not being preached at in a movie.
Yeah.
And it's just fun.
Yeah.
You know, the Mission Impossible movies recently are really fun.
yeah.
But he does think he's awesome. I was saying this to Alex, he is the, like, there's a certain type of terrible movie director, like really bad B movie director from like the 80s. And then Neil Breen currently, who I talked about, who they think they're awesome and they think they're making a really awesome movie, but they just don't know what they're doing and they're terrible. And they're like, they make for really funny bad movies.
Right.
It's like, oh, this guy is making a movie so he can be a star, you know,
What else have you guys seen of his recently?
of Tom Cruise's.
Yeah. The Mummy, American Made, Jack Reacher.
American Made, Jack
seen,
Reacher.
You've seen those two?
I heard
Edge
The
of-
Mummy was terrible, but I don't think that's because of
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of
I heard
Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow was really good.
The last one that I've
You guys
seen
can
that
see
I
Edge of Tomorrow.
I don't think I did.
Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah, I think that's why I didn't go.
Interesting.
Oblivion was
Oblivion
one of
was
the
very
last
good.
ones that I saw. And I
Same
really
director
liked it. I really liked
As
Oblivion.
this.
See my favorite director.
That might be a new thing we just discovered.
Yeah.
The Tron one.
Joseph Kaczynski is our new guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They're saying he's
there's
the new
more than
age.
just
didn't
those
even
two
know
is
him.
what I wanted to make
Sure,
that point.
those are just the big tent poles. you
Yeah.
know? But if Tom Cruise didn't have money and some talent, he would be the equivalent of that like narcissistic guy who's like, I'm pretty awesome and I'm gonna make this movie to show how awesome I am. Because you can tell like he puts stuff in his movies where he can do something really cool and look really cool doing it, but it works because he's got money behind it
Yeah.
and he's actually
And he
decently
paid the price.
talented.
I mean, he broke his ankle.
In this one or in Mission Impossible?
Impossible.
Yeah, it's pretty rough to watch.
It's insane.
Just,
It's in the movie.
Just snaps it against a wall.
Yep.
Strapped himself to an airplane.
Can't wait to see what he does in the next two.
Corkscrew dives a helicopter.
And this is what I wanted to end the episode with. Well, I know that it's very shocking to me. We can talk about it real quick. It's very shocking to me that he still has this massive box office pull. I was not anticipating it. My dad said the biggest demographic going to the movie, this one specifically, is 18 to 30. It brought out more 40 to 65-year-olds than any movie has in like a year and a half. But the biggest demographic seeing this movie is 18 to 30, which that's just really surprising to me because Tom Cruise is like 65. And sure, Miles Teller has a mustache and plays shirtless, double-sided football on the beach. Don't get me wrong. I'd go see that. I did, twice. So, but I'm just saying.
He's still pissed at me for leaving during that.
But
you didn't see it.
when I just didn't think that.
I think he's still a good-looking dude too. I
Well,
think that has
aside
something to
from
do
his
with
middle
it.
tooth, for sure.
I
Sure, yeah.
don't even think the appeal is him.
So that's how do you cross $1 billion with a 36-year-old sequel? That I just couldn't believe it.
I think the appeal is people know now he's gonna do something crazy
Right.
in his movie.
Yep.
Interesting.
And he does it for real.
Yes.
It's almost like
It's a Nolan-
watching somebody
Chris Nolan
like
kinda
watching
thing.
someone tightrope walk across a canyon. Like it's a little bit of that appeal of like, what crazy thing is he gonna do in this one for real?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he just gonna jump out of, I don't know, a spaceship? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's rumor in the new Mission Impossible that they are filming in the International Space Station, and it would be officially the first theatrical movie to film like a narrative movie in space.
I bet he takes his spacesuit off.
And just like lets space.
That's how he dies.
Okay, well that is literally what I wanted to end the episode with. Is it possible for Tom Cruise to die any other way than filming a movie? That's what has to happen.
I think that would be it'd be poetic.
I mean, he's gonna be 85 trying to ride a freaking whatever you call it.
Well,
Ride
the other question is
ride
like,
a freaking
so
what is it?
what do you do?
All you've said is ride a freaking
A
whatever
motorcycle?
you call it.
No, these are legs. Hover.
A hoverboard?
Well, it's not a hover, but that's what they call them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's gonna try to ride one of those outside of a airplane while it's doing a corkscrew, and he's gonna fall off and he's gonna die.
I think he's going to be done with this stuff after these Mission Impossible movies. I think he knows he's getting older and his body is not as strong as it was. I think with
He
this,
is the first to sit out of the beach football game.
yes, he
But
does
he
not
knows
play.
when he walks into a room, everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah. He did this one, I think, to wrap up Top Gun. I don't think they're gonna make any more Top Gun movies. And these next two Mission Impossible movies are the last Mission Impossible movies.
You know, it went
it's a
over
part
$1
one
billion,
and,
right?
part one and part two. So that's the thing, though, is he has the say in whether or not it happens.
He has the rights
I
to Top
love that
Gun.
the idea that Mission Impossible 8 is part 1 and Mission Impossible
Yes.
9 is part 2.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, it's part 8. No, this is part 1. You don't understand.
Part one of part
Okay,
8.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of starting to wind down on this crazy stunt stuff, and I think he's probably going to drift into more independent stuff again. That's my feeling, but I could be absolutely wrong about
You're
that.
emailing with him.
Yeah, I've
That's
been
what it
talking to
seemed
him
like,
and
yeah.
texting and stuff, and he's like, I'm going to hang it up after
I
this.
will die on the hill that Tom Cruise is dying filming a movie.
I mean, that would be the most poetic way to go out for him. Either that or just getting zapped into space by an alien. That would be the other way.
I guess. Those are the only two options, Tom.
Yeah. That's what you wanted to end the episode on.
In middle tooth, obviously.
Middle tooth.
TN.
Look it up.
TN.
It's pretty wild.
My dad didn't believe me. I showed him yesterday. Wow, that's crazy. I guess I never noticed.
I was showing Alex in the movie. I was like, he's got a middle tooth. It's like right in the middle of his
what did
face.
he say?
He was like, it's not that bad. I don't really notice it.
You have
that
to smile
much.
like this.
They do it. They fix it in post.
They just shift his entire face.
That would be
They just move
insane.
his jaw a little bit.
They Photoshop his tooth into one giant tooth,
And they messed up
put
on
the
one.
line right in the
Yeah, it
middle.
just floats around.
They
in
messed up
scene
on
'cause
one,
they
and
didn't
there's
get
three front
Dude.
teeth.
All right, well, this is
We're back.
we're back.
Yeah, dude. Jake's married.
Tom,
He is.
Yes.
Peyton has a cowboy hat.
more importantly, we saw Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
More importantly, for who? Everyone.
Everyone.
The listeners.
The listeners. That's probably true.
Yeah.
It's true for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are we going to see next?
I don't know. Let me see what's at Regal.
There's something.
Do we need to see Jurassic World?
I'd watch it, I guess.
There's something.
I'd watch
Was
part
it
of
funny bad at
Should
all?
I go halfway?
Mini
It's
Jurassic
2.5 hours, right?
Mini Jurassic World review.
This is not
Was it
on
funny?
topic. Hey guys, thanks for listening.
Good point.
My name is Jake,
My name's Peyton.
My name's Wes.
and we will
Bid you adieu.
bid you adieu.